Welcome back to another episode of Tech Tip Tuesday for the Cleveland, Ohio Stake. Today we're going to continue on in the Gospel Library app and just kind of overview some of the items in there and make sure everyone knows how to get around. Last week we went into our scriptures and we talked about how we can choose our scriptures and mark them up and go into the different sections and choose to highlight and those type of things. We talked about bookmarks and changing pages and how to go back, which is clicking up in the top, going back to the main library. We just want to review what is available for you here and a couple key tips when you are trying to make sure that you are managing the materials on here. We can see that there's various sections. General Conference is coming up, so we could click on General Conference if we wanted to go back and select previous conferences. You can see here that we can pull those up. I could go to October 2016 and I see that that's grayed out, but October 2015 is in color. Again, as a reminder, if it is in color, it means it's been downloaded. It's active in this particular app. And if it's grayed out, it's not downloaded for you to access until you click on it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on October 2016 and you'll see that very quickly on my network it connects. And then I could come up and I could see all the different conference sessions and the conference talks. So maybe if I wanted to pull up something from the Sunday morning session about joy and spiritual survival, I could click on that. And the really cool thing about the conference talks is you'll see right away as we are looking here that we can see President Nelson. I can see that his talk is right here and I could play it. I could also scroll down and I could actually read the text of his entire address to us at conference. So that's a really cool thing. You can read it or you can play it and listen to it. Now, again, I want to remind you, as we are looking at materials that are multimedia like videos, as long as I'm on a wireless network, which I am right now, and I can see that in the upper left of my iPad, I can play this just fine. But if I were, let's say, in my car on the road and I did not have wireless access, this video would show up as missing or just unable to play. I would still absolutely be able to see the text and read the talk, but I could not come up and play it. So if I want to be able to play this video offline, again, we'll look in the upper right-hand corner of any multimedia piece, and I could click on that download and it's going to go full circle as quick as my network can handle it, and it's going to actually download that video so I could play it offline. Similar to your scriptures, if I wanted to click and highlight a certain section, you see that all of the areas to highlight, to link, those kinds of things will come up. So let's say this talk referenced the scriptures or a talk I was giving or some other thing in Gospel Library. I could connect and link them one to another. I could highlight them. I could put notes in. I could add it to a notebook. So if I'm preparing a talk, that's a great way to grab little snippets out of conference talks and put them into a notebook for you to use to prepare a talk. And I've done that, and it's a really, really useful tool. You can see here in the upper right that my video is almost finished downloading. So again, I could watch that offline. So I'm going to click on the screen again, and it's going to bring back up my menu. I can also see here in the upper left, there's that open in option. So I can mail that talk to someone. I could print that. I could add it to a notebook. I could look at any other app that I might have and add it to that if it can read it. So, and in the upper right-hand corner, we see that there is a menu option there. What that's doing is that's letting you know the related content that President Nelson has referred to in his talk, that he's kind of footnoted in his talk. So, and I can see that 2 Timothy 3:2-4, I could click on that, and it's going to pull that actual scripture up. So I could refer to that. And again, I could take this drawer and hide it and get my full talk back. So there's a lot of great tools, and you can see the full depth of the materials that is presented to us. So again, I'm going to click back up at the top. We're going to go back to the library, see other options. We see this notes, and I've talked about, hey, you can take notes. You can actually create notebooks to keep information in. So I have spiritual thoughts. It looks like I've got one note. I had created it for this session just to show you that you can create a notebook, but I haven't added anything to it yet. I can go back to notes, and I could click up here in the upper right, And maybe I have to give a sacrament talk. So I can say sacrament talk material. So I could actually go and look for the material that I might want to use in my sacrament talk. And as I find it, I could use that open in symbol that we saw in the last piece, and I could add it into this notebook so that I have everything in one place to kind of gather my thoughts. So that's a really cool tip. I can come and click on tags. So if I have tagged anything, it would show up there, which I haven't done that yet, or recent things that I've accessed. So that's what our notes is in this section. You can also tag things as favorites. So if there's certain things that are your favorites that you access a lot, you could tag it as favorites. Go to that screen and it kind of hones it in a little bit more for the areas that you use most frequently. We'll go back to library. So teachings of the presidents. So as we're looking at our lessons this year, we have Gordon B. Hinckley. I've already accessed that material, and we've looked at that. This was our talk this last week about how mighty a thing is prayer, excuse me. And you can see that I've actually gone through as we went through our lesson on Sunday, and I've been able to highlight materials that I thought were things that I wanted to come back and reference. You can also see it's very faint, but in the right-hand side I have a tag. So I've tagged these particular items that say this is character, honesty, integrity. So if I were looking for those items, it would bring that particular reference up in the future. So again, a great tool for us to be able to access. I'm going to go back to the library. And I'm going to go back into teachings of the presidents. And what I want to point out to you is something that people don't do, especially with our lesson manuals or maybe with magazines. When you are in this app, again, all of these items are accessible to you, but until you've actually made it go from gray to color, it's not really downloaded on your device to access. Now, I actually have the last 3 years of our teachings of the presidents on my device. However, many of these items, especially conference talks, things from the church magazines, many of these items take up space once they're downloaded on your actual device. So this is the key tip I want to give you, and this is something that can help everyone. If you have downloaded things previously and you no longer are using that, if you click on it again and you click and hold like Ezra Taft Benson, I can bring up another menu that says remove. So if I click remove, it doesn't take away my option to access it in the future, but it actually takes it off of my device. So that will save some memory on my device. That's really key if you're running out of memory on your phone or your iPad or Android, to deselect the items that you're no longer using so that you are not using up that space. You can also see when if I click on Gordon B. Hinckley, it also says add to, and that's where I could add that to my favorites. So if that's one that was my favorites, or if I wanted to create some other collection that I wanted to put it in, I could actually create one as I go. But again, I would want to click on Howard W. Hunter. I would want to remove that. Certainly, as I need to access it, I could go back and access, but this will free up space on your device. I'm going to go ahead and click back in here and back in our library. We all talk about how much our devices are helping us these days in our church life. That's a great way to just have your lesson manual with you wherever you go so that you can read, if you have time at the doctor's appointment, you can read the lesson that we're going to be covering on Sunday in Priesthood or Relief Society because you have it with you. As we go over here, we've got lessons as well. And you can see that I've got Sunday school, primary, Aaronic priesthood. So if you're a teacher, you can actually find your full lesson manuals. I had to substitute for primary a few weeks ago, so I got to go into the primary lesson manuals, and then I was able to pull up the particular area that I needed. So if I wanted to click on primary 3, I could click in there, and I could choose the lesson that I needed to cover. So it's a great way, even if you're not specifically that teacher, that you can find those lessons. And this is where our Sunday school manual is. So we could come in here and I can see the user's version or the teacher's version, gospel principles, any of those lessons manuals. We can find any of those church materials that we used to have to carry those books or order them in here. For our teachers, teaching in the Savior's way. This is also good for parents because we want to teach our children. Being able to access that material and the teaching videos, it's as simple as a click. And then that material is here for us to be able to access and learn and reference back to so that we can make sure that we are teaching in accordance with the Savior's way. So I'm going to come back out of lessons, go back to library. Again, I've pointed out a few things. We've got music. We've got magazines. Let's go into our magazines. We can see, even though these are in color, I want to highlight, this is just the area saying this is the topic. This is the Ensign. This is the New Era, the Friend, the Liahona. And I could click on, let's say, the New Era for our youth. And once I'm in there, I will be able to see which actual magazines I have downloaded and which ones I have not. So I have February downloaded. I've already read that. I could click on that and remove it. I could leave it there, and I can click on March. So I have access to that. I certainly could have all of these downloaded at once. If I go back to the New Era and I go back to magazines, if I actually clicked on the New Era here, you can say download all, and I could choose to download all of those magazines all in one place. So if you click on the upper level and you click on it and it says download all or remove all. So if I were to download all, it's going to download every New Era all the way back to, I think it's like 1974 or something. So that's going to take up a lot of space on my device. I wouldn't want to do that. But if I did that by accident, I could certainly go back and remove them all at once as well. So that's a really, really quick tip that most people are not aware, that you can actually go and do all that at once. As a reminder, and we talked about this last week, if there's multimedia even in the magazines, we want to make sure that we download the multimedia to access it offline. Here's the hymnal and the church hymn books and conference music, and I can click in here and I can see the morning breaks. The really cool thing about this is I can see the text, but I can also play the music. So if you're in class, and we'll talk about the new church's multimedia app, but I can actually hear the music, which is kind of playing a little goofy for me right now. But I can hear the music in there. I could also, again, send it out if I needed to in the upper left-hand corner. So that's a lot of great tools that I'll be able to access. We have our missionary tools. We have videos. If you wanted to go into the family section and we wanted to talk about our family guidebook, the family proclamation, strengthening our marriage, all of those resources are there within the Gospel Library app. So we can access each and every one of them. Seminary, young adults, youth, everything. Temple and family history. So if you're getting ready to go to the temple, you can download that information. 2017 Family Discovery Day. All of this information is all inside of this great Gospel Library app for us to access. And last but not least, again, there's a tips section. So it talks to you about how to cross-reference, how to create a note, delete a highlight, those type of things that are common question. And anytime they make any newer updates, it's going to let you know that as well. So that's it for today's Tech Tip Tuesday. We wanted to just go over the main materials and remind you that you can go deeper into any of these sections that you want to make sure as you need to access things that we would want to click and hold to download or to access that material. If we wanted to kind of archive it for a later use, we could click and hold again and remove that to save space on our device. But take some time to look through here. You can't mess anything up. It's going to be really nice and easy, and you'll see what a breadth of tools that the church has provided to us in the Gospel Library app. That's it for Tech Tip Tuesday this week. Please join us here every Tuesday for more tips to use technology for your church life.